Hi everyone, and welcome back to Beyond Belief with Nuria Khan. You know what's insanely beyond belief? Is that we can't just have a World Cup without some of the crazies coming out to play. And I mean radical Islamic crazies who cannot keep their religion in the private sphere. I mean, well, how can you? It's quite hard because Islam is not confined to the public's private sphere. Nothing about it says be private, be a small, subdued, benign religion that one just practices behind closed doors. No, no, no. Islam is loud and proud. Islam is chest thumping. Islam is dominant, assertive. It's exhibitionary. It's there to lay its claim. It's not there to blend into the background. And we see this with many Muslim teams that play in the World Cup when they do like a collective prayer on the pitch, potentially after the match, like as a post-match celebration, giving their thanks to Allah, if you will, if they've won, obviously, because, you know, Allah also makes them lose sometimes. But we've seen this kind of like mass bowing down that they do. And previously, historically, not in the World Cup, but in various other cups, we've seen teams, for example, there was a video circulating on X a couple of days ago, which actually had to be fact-checked because people thought it was from this World Cup, but it was actually from the one of the Arab leagues or the Arab Cups, and it's actually a video of the Egyptian celebration after a goal, and the man does the beheading gesture, which I don't want to do because I don't want YouTube to literally cut me off for that. But that's essentially what he reenacts, even though, you know, you're playing within the Arab League. But the level of celebrations that we see that incorporates kind of gestures, symbolism, or even like outright proclamations of their faith as a part of their celebration. Well, I didn't think it could get any more in your face, out there, and, you know, kind of exhibitionist, as I mentioned, until I saw this video of, I mean, I hate to give this guy any airtime because I think he's an absolute moron. He doesn't deserve anyone's attention, yet sad the society we live in that this man gets so much clout and views. I'm talking about none other than Sneo, who was seen in a video partying, I think it's in New York, post Egypt winning a match as a celebration. And if you don't know who Sneo is, he's just some guy who's like a live streamer on Twitch or whatever that platform was that they live stream on, and he's become insanely anti-Semitic. He's quite conspiratorial, and he's an outright Holocaust denier. He is in this kind of like far-right manosphere. That's kind of where he operates. So he hangs with people like Nick Fuentes. And a couple of years ago, he reverted to Islam and has not shut up since, essentially. And in his already confused and strange, I wouldn't want to be in his brain state of the way he sees the world, you throw Islam into the mix, and it kind of gave him like a platform and a framework to tie in all of his anti-Semitism and all of his manosphere issues with women, and, you know, the kind of dominance that men should hold against women, and I guess like being polygamous and expecting one-sided monogamy and all of these things that, you know, some men like him aspire to. I think just like Andrew Tate, Islam gave him a great framework to do that. So chuck him in, imagine, with a bunch of like Egyptian testosterone-filled youth celebrating, and you're bound to get some questionable behavior and messages come out, right? Surely. But yeah, this is kind of a pattern I've seen with Muslim countries when they do celebrate or they assert their culture or religion, if you will, out to in the public forum. They have to. I mean, you know, you can argue that of course some Christian players come out and they do the cross thing as they run onto the pitch. That's absolutely fine. But what I'm talking about is more of like a proclamation of, shouting Allahu Akbar if you've won, or doing something more sinister like the beheading signal, or doing the mass congregation of bowing down on the pitch together in unison with the rest of your team. It's something that's also used in cricket quite a lot. The Pakistani team is very guilty of this. Even when they had a player that wasn't Muslim in the team, you would see the pressure that would be put on him to eventually become Muslim was crazy. You can imagine what they're saying to him behind closed doors in the locker rooms, in their private times and coaching sessions. And there was a famous Pakistani player who was like one of the only Christians in the team. And lo and behold, a couple of years with all the other quite radical Muslims, the next thing you know, he's changed his name from a Christian one to an Islamic one, and he's grown a beard about this big. And, I'm talking about a player called Yusuf Yohanna, by the way. That became his Muslim name. So let's have a look at what Sneo has been up to in New York and the message he has for the world. Oh, and speaking of World Cups, I am repping my England shirt because I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but on the 6th of July, most of the country who gives the toss stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning to watch England play against Mexico, and boy, oh boy, was it magical. I'm so glad I stayed up. It was stunning. It was an absolutely stunning performance, is all I can say. It was witnessing history, because Mexico have never lost like that in the Azteca, in that ground. And there was so much talk beforehand about whether the climate, the general weather, the elevation of the pitch, it's going to be so foreign to the English team that we're just going to struggle in general. And lo and behold, they did the impossible. First, they kept Mexico at bay for 20 minutes, so they didn't concede a goal, which was the English team had these small milestones, and one of them was to not concede a goal in the first 20 minutes. And that's exactly what happened. When Mexico weren't able to get it to the back of the net within 20 minutes, we thought, okay, phase 1 complete. Phase 2 now is to try and get one in and then go back on the defense and just safeguard the goal. But essentially, it was a crazy game full of drama, red cards, penalties, what have you. Couldn't have asked for anything better. But nobody went out afterwards and celebrated like this, despite our pubs being open till 5 a.m. Yes, that's right. Only us as a nation would sit there and have deliberations and all some of the highest legal minds in the country sit down and change the licensing timings and laws applicable for when pubs can open, just so people can stay awake and watch the England game and enjoy themselves. And only in this country would we have news bulletin after news bulletin asking, would you let your child stay up for the England match? So all we were concerned about was the pubs being open and would you let your child stay up or not? So gotta love England, honestly. You try and tell that to other people, they're like, what? And even today even the day after, when I was watching the breakfast shows post that match against Mexico, the breakfast shows at 6 a.m. were saying, I never thought I would be saying something like, oh, welcome to the breakfast show. If you've just finished off at the pub, give me a call and let me know how your night was. But yeah, there you have it. The World Cup it kind of changes everything for a while. It's nice actually to get a break from political fatigue and the general news cycle fatigue that can be extremely overwhelming at times. So that's why I do like to dabble in a good football game, or especially when it's the World Cup. Right, let's see what they're up to across the pond on the back of the Egypt game. This is a tweet in which I'm guessing she's a fellow Egyptian, Dalia Zaida. She says, you cannot afford to overlook the ideological radicalization of Egypt, the country with the largest population in the Middle East, 110 plus million people. Here is another weaponization of Egypt's historic progress in the World Cup. An online streamer, she means Sneo. Okay, good. She doesn't even know much about him. An online streamer joined the Egyptian crowds in New York celebrating the victory of their soccer team to declare New York an Islamic state. just like the other activist YouTuber who threw the Palestinian flag at the head coach of the Egyptian national team in Dallas last week. Oh wow, I didn't know about that. So there was an activist YouTuber who actually threw the Palestine flag at the coach of the Egypt national team. Interesting. I must definitely look for that footage. The question is, she asks, why do Egyptians keep eating these extreme ideologically loaded baits and responding to them with such positivity and excitement? These are the normal mainstream Egyptians, not the Muslim Brotherhood or the communists, just regular everyday people. I knew by experience that the brainwashing and indoctrination in Egypt was severe. But what we're seeing here is beyond belief, I would say. What we're seeing here is beyond naivety or ignorance. It is an obvious indication of a serious problem of political and ideological radicalization in the most populous country in the Middle East and North Africa. That should not be overlooked. Let's have a look at what went down.
This is the Islamic Republic of New Yorkistan. Islam will be in every household. Inshallah, the whole world is Muslim. Welcome to Mamdani's New York. You see this city? You see how it looks? Inshallah, your city looks just like this too.
Ouchallah. No, it's not, mate. Not in your wildest dreams, although Mamdani's doing a pretty good job of screwing it up. Welcome to communism meets Islam. You get Mamdani. Essentially, death to any city that he is in charge of, quite frankly. Tell me you don't understand economics without telling me you don't understand economics. You get Mamdani. And we're seeing the ramifications of that just now. So, you know, it doesn't take him long to show his ineptitude and show that the two ideologies that he panders to are completely useless and not fit for purpose in this day and age, or may I say they never were. Anyway, here you have the self-proclaimed Sneo, who is gassing himself up with the high on Islam, basically. High on the manosphere, high on Islam, acting all high and mighty, surrounded by these young, adrenaline-filled, testosterone-filled young men from Egypt. And, you know, this is a problem I have with people, I guess you call him an influencer, like him, who go around, they've adopted Islam as a nice fluffy costume. You know, you don't even know the ins and outs of Islam. I've seen him briefly debate with people and he gets shot down so easily, and honestly the guy has no comeback. Like his general out for when he's stumped or when he's cornered is, oh, I'm just joking, because he has no concept of Islamic history at all. He's got his same talking points, which is to be highly anti-Semitic, you know, just blame everything on the Jews, parrot conspiracy theories, and now kind of wear this Islamic armor as if it's, you know, given him a new zest for life, which clearly I think it has. But I hope we ignore him into oblivion. But this is just a stark reminder how, you know, I must say in this video, I was surprised to, so I'm watching this video for the first time with you all as soon as we kind of played it here, and I was surprised that many of the like young Muslim boys weren't as, you know, big on the takbir or doing chants back or, you know, joining in with what he was saying, which is actually a little bit encouraging. But having said that, like this lady commented in her tweet, they are very radicalized, and Egypt is still one of those countries which I would say suffers from a huge radicalization problem. I mean, even if you look at kind of the surveys that are conducted within Egypt, the general way of thinking of most of the population is very Sharia aligned, very kind of anti-Western, very anti-free speech, very pro-blasphemy, very pro-hijab, very pro your men are able to discipline their wives if necessary. Their TV programs are extremely problematic. You know, they very much fit that kind of mold of a, I guess, a very disastrous Islamic country trying to find its feet, and it's just stumbling constantly with bouts of radicalization on and off. But people like Sneo don't help at all. And he's obviously got into the whole World Cup fervor of it, and he's adding his little Islam spiel wherever he goes. You see him popping up in random cities just gassing Islam. But yeah, I think it's a very poor show when you see like the radical Islamic mindset of this kind of conquering, dominating mentality even seep into what should be apolitical arenas like football. And I know that, there's been some controversial things even in this World Cup that FIFA won't touch. But I guess what people are doing is latching on to their individual players who do take a stand on certain political issues. I think one of the most controversial is Norway striker Erling Haaland, who is a phenomenal striker who we're actually up against on Saturday. Bring on Norway. Come on, England. I'm really nervous about him because of how good genuinely his talent is. But he's actually taken a stand, quite a strong stand for Israel in this whole Palestine-Israel conflict. Even though Norway itself is acting very much on the other end of the spectrum. And a lot of the population, I would assume, are quite, the lefty, liberal, woke are the most vocal, if you will. Although I'm sure there's a kind of large silent majority as well who might think differently. But Norway have actually gone ahead, and whereas Haaland himself takes a stand for the state of Israel, Norway are, as you can see here, planning to ban trade with Israeli settlements in Palestinian territories. So Norway, the country itself, is taking quite a harsh stand themselves. Norway's government said on Friday it plans to ban its citizens and companies from trading in goods produced in Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. So also, Norway in 2024 recognized Palestinian statehood, and they've also proposed a bill which is widely expected to pass in Norway's parliament, which includes a ban on importing and exporting goods from Israeli settlements in Palestine. It also bans real estate transactions. And as you can see, the UN obviously has already deemed Israeli settlements illegal, but Norway's very much backed this line of thinking. And so you have a lot of people who were very grateful for Haaland to take the position that he took, because he was almost kind of, well, you think of Norway, most people think of Haaland above Norway. Like if you think of Norway, he's got a lot more fame, power and clout than the state of Norway does in general. And so I think a lot of people were extremely grateful that he was vocal about his position, and it was in stark contrast to the country he was representing, because it did show them that, listen, your country might be doing one thing, but you could be doing another. And I guess it's the same thing, the same situation with Iran, where FIFA had banned the sun and lion flag, which is the flag that, if you ask the average non-IRGC affiliated Iranian or non-IRGC sympathetic Iranian, they would love to have the sun and lion flag represent them and their history and their heritage, as opposed to the Islamic one. And yet FIFA's taken its position on that. So yeah, I think, with football trying to remain apolitical, it does by default become quite political in nature anyway. But what we're seeing, even when with the celebrations of like the Moroccan team winning, and what they did to the streets of France, and what the Egyptian team is doing there in New York, and the things being proclaimed, it just is very typical of the chest thumping Islamic mindset also. But it's like, you can't just have a healthy celebration, or you can't be happy that you're excelling in sportsmanship or a world championship or a competition like the World Cup without Islamizing it, or without asserting your dominance, or without trying to make it a more than a game of sports. Because most countries in here, you would think, are coming in to play a fair and square game of football, not to feel like you are playing against the infidel, or you're there to take over a city in your demonstration as a celebration. So yeah, it's just I guess it's something that we can't divorce from football. Unfortunately, it would be great if, that's the one time people could just leave everything aside and football becomes the religion, for lack of a better word. But let me know if you've had any of these kind of crazy celebrations in your city, if you live in a big city or even a smaller, more regional one, and if you feel like the World Cup has been politicized, or if it's been pretty good in your opinion of staying apolitical this time round, because I know even with the Qatar one, there was some major concerns. I mean, I had massive concerns about the whitewashing of sports that takes place within GCC countries like Qatar, and all of the modern slavery that takes place there. And I've also mentioned in some of my videos that a Mexican FIFA official was raped in Qatar during the World Cup when she was there for work, and she had to flee back to Mexico because, as you know, under an Islamic state, if she didn't produce 4 witnesses, she would be considered just as complicit in what happened to her, even though she was sexually violated. And so she just got on a plane and left back to Mexico, because you can't trust the Islamic authorities in countries like that to go after the real perpetrators and get you some semblance of justice. It just doesn't happen. But anyway, that's it from me today. Let me know if you are watching the World Cup and if you are geared up for the semis that we're going into. Let me know in the comments who you're supporting, where you're watching from, and what you think of the Islamic celebrations that we see just go a little bit too far, in my opinion. Let me know what you think, though. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and like I said, drop me a comment with a little World Cup football, and let me know your flag that you are supporting, and wish England all the best for Saturday, because it's us versus the Vikings. Let's go, England. Until then, take care, everybody. Have fun and enjoy the World Cup. Take it easy. There's so much political fatigue out there. It's nice to just sit back and enjoy some football for what it is once in a while. Just good old sport. Take care, everyone. Bye. If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.